It's one of the few drugs you can drink in public, toast at weddings, sell on television, and stock on supermarket shelves. Even though it damages organs, fuels addiction, and quietly shortens millions of lives every single year. Alcohol is linked to traffic deaths, cancers, liver failure, and violence. Entire medical journals are dedicated to its harms. And if a brand new chemical with identical effects were discovered today, it would almost certainly be regulated like a dangerous narcotic. Yet instead of being outlawed, it's advertised, taxed, and celebrated in every corner of society. So here's the question most people never stop to ask. Why isn't alcohol banned? Why is one of the world's most destructive substances treated like a social accessory instead of a public threat? The real explanation has very little to do with people just like to drink. It's a story that reaches back into our biology, exposes the failure of some of history's biggest social experiments, and reveals an economic trap so powerful that even governments don't know how to step out of it. To understand why societies cannot simply outlaw alcohol, we first have to understand why humans are drawn to it so stubbornly in the first place. And strangely, the answer may begin not in a bar or brewery, but in the treetops of ancient forests. Anthropologists sometimes refer to an evolutionary idea nicknamed the drunken ape, or drunken monkey, hypothesis. Millions of years ago, our early primate ancestors depended heavily on fruit as their primary source of energy. Ripe fruit meant sugar, calories, and survival. But in dense, competitive environments, finding fruit before others did could mean the difference between thriving and starving. When fruit becomes overripe, natural yeasts break down the sugars and convert them into ethanol. Ethanol evaporates easily, spreading a strong, distinctive scent across the forest. Scientists believe primates that evolved a sensitivity to this smell had an advantage. The aroma of ethanol became an ancient signal that food was nearby, soft fruit loaded with energy, ready to eat. Individuals who were more attracted to that scent ate more, reproduced more, and passed down that neurological wiring. Fast forward millions of years, and our brains still carry the remnants of that reward pathway. Modern neuroscience shows that alcohol stimulates dopamine circuits tied to motivation and pleasure. To your brain, alcohol is not just a recreational substance. On a deep biological level, it is still associated with survival cues that once kept your ancestors alive. That doesn't mean alcohol is good for you, but it does mean the desire for it is older than civilization itself. So when governments try to suppress drinking by outlawing it, they are not just fighting behavior. They are pushing back against instincts carved into human biology over evolutionary time. And history shows that whenever societies have attempted to erase alcohol through law, the outcome has rarely been what lawmakers expected. The most famous experiment, of course, was Prohibition in the United States during the 1920s and early 1930s. Reformers believed alcohol was destroying families, driving crime, and holding society back. So they tried a radical solution: make it illegal to produce and sell. The goal sounded noble. The reality was chaos. People didn't stop drinking, they simply stopped buying from legal businesses and started buying from criminal networks. Bootlegging exploded. Secret bars flourished. Violent smuggling empires formed almost overnight. Instead of eliminating crime, Prohibition helped professionalize it. Organized gangs grew richer, assassinations increased, and corruption spread through law enforcement and politics. Homicide rates climbed. Ordinary citizens who had never broken the law before suddenly found themselves participating in underground trade. Because social drinking didn't disappear, it simply went into hiding. And the United States wasn't the only country to learn this the hard way. In the mid-1980s, the Soviet Union launched one of the most aggressive anti-alcohol campaigns in modern history. Under Mikhail Gorbachev, vineyards were uprooted, alcohol supplies were restricted, and sales were tightly controlled. At first, statistics looked promising. Mortality rates briefly dropped. some public health indicators improved. But beneath those short-term gains, a crisis was brewing. Alcohol taxes had long been a major source of state revenue, and cutting production drained the national budget. Meanwhile, citizens began brewing homemade liquor on a massive scale. Sugar vanished from store shelves because people were buying it to ferment their own alcohol in apartments and rural villages. Illegal markets thrived. Poisonings from unsafe homemade spirits increased. And the campaign became deeply unpopular, further weakening public trust in the government during a politically fragile era. The program didn't just fail. Many historians believe it accelerated economic decline and social unrest. Both of these stories reveal a harsh truth: banning alcohol does not erase demand. It pushes it out of sight. And when alcohol goes underground, something else happens, something economists refer to as the iron law of prohibition. The harder a substance is policed, the stronger and more concentrated it becomes. Think about it from a smuggler's perspective. If you risk prison every time you transport illegal alcohol, you're not going to move bulky low-strength beer. You'll move the most concentrated product you can, high-proof spirits with more alcohol per volume. During US Prohibition, beer consumption dropped while consumption of powerful liquor surged, largely because it was easier to hide and transport. The same pattern repeats anywhere alcohol is restricted. Weak drinks disappear, strong and dangerous alternatives replace them. And when regulation disappears, safety disappears with it. Legal alcohol production must follow quality standards. Industrial processes are tested, ingredients are monitored, contamination is controlled. In illegal markets, none of that applies. People may distill improperly, substitute unsafe chemicals, or accidentally produce methanol instead of ethanol, a toxic form of alcohol that can cause blindness or death even in small amounts. Around the world, tragedies still occur in places where people rely on unregulated homemade liquor because legal alcohol is restricted or unaffordable. Ironically, bans meant to protect public health often end up exposing communities to far more dangerous substances. But biology and black markets are only part of the story. There is another reason alcohol remains legal, and it is perhaps the most uncomfortable one for governments to admit. Alcohol is deeply and structurally embedded into global economies. Entire industries depend on it. Farmers grow grain and grapes for it. Breweries, distilleries, transportation networks, bars, restaurants, tourism, packaging, advertising, and retail, millions of jobs exist because alcohol exists. On top of that, governments collect enormous tax revenue from alcohol sales. These are often called sin taxes, framed as compensation for the social and healthcare costs that alcohol creates. In some countries, those taxes help fund hospitals, emergency services, and public programs. That creates a moral and financial paradox. The very substance that burdens healthcare systems also helps fund them. Remove alcohol overnight, and governments wouldn't just battle illegal trade, they would face enormous budget shortfalls. Public programs would lose funding. Businesses would collapse. Workers across entire sectors would be displaced. Political leaders know this, even when they don't say it out loud. Alcohol is not just a beverage, it is an economic pillar. In practical terms, it has become too big to ban. So instead of outlawing alcohol entirely, most societies choose a compromise. They legalize it, regulate it, and attempt to manage its harms rather than eliminate it. Age limits, licensing rules, labeling laws, drunk driving penalties, restricted hours of sale, all of these reflect a global acknowledgement that alcohol is dangerous, but prohibition is often worse. The choice isn't between a risk-free world and a reckless one. It's between controlled harm and uncontrolled chaos. Of course, that doesn't make alcohol harmless. Medical science is clearer than ever that heavy drinking damages the brain, heart, liver, and immune system. Even moderate consumption carries health risks that many people underestimate. But the question of banning alcohol isn't simply a question of danger. It is a collision of biology, culture, economics, and human behavior. Our brains evolved to respond to it. Our history shows that bans empower criminals rather than protecting citizens. Our economies depend on the revenue it generates. And our societies, for better or worse, have built entire traditions, rituals, and industries around it. So why is alcohol not banned? Because banning it doesn't erase the desire for it, it magnifies the danger around it. Because every attempt to outlaw it has proven more socially destructive than imperfectly regulating it. Because governments are financially entangled with it, and populations are culturally intertwined with it. The story of alcohol isn't a simple tale of vice and indulgence. It's a reminder that some of the most ordinary parts of daily life are tied to deep evolutionary instincts and enormous historical consequences. In the end, societies have chosen a difficult middle path: allow alcohol, warn about its dangers, tax it, regulate it, and try, sometimes unsuccessfully, to balance freedom, health, and economic reality. The cost of keeping it legal is high. But again and again, history has shown that the cost of banning it can be even higher. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the surprising logic behind everyday things we take for granted, make sure to like the video and subscribe. There are many more hidden histories and unexpected explanations coming your way. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.